Public Safety Subcommittee meeting dealing with really an array of issues that we'll be hearing some progress on this evening. Joining me this evening is the chairman of the Public Safety Subcommittee, Councilor Bud Caulfield, along with a member of the subcommittee, Councilor Frankie Dakota. Also in the audience, we have Councilor Rita Mercier and Councilor Patrick Murphy. I want to thank them and acknowledge them for being here. But as I look out in the audience, what an impressive group of people. And as you think about what's going on in the city of Lowell and the successes that we've had over the years, it really has been a collaboration or a real partnership with our state delegation. And this evening we have Senator Eileen Donahue here. We have the Dean of the delegation, Representative Golden, Representative Nangle, and Representative Murphy here. And I want to thank them for really being the driving force to put this subcommittee meeting together this evening. We also have Middlesex County District Attorney Jerry Leone back again. Thank you, District Attorney Leone, for being here. We also have the Public Safety Secretary, Mary Beth Heffernan. Thank you for being here, Madam Secretary. We also have State Police Sergeant Major Edward Amodio here this evening. Thank you very much for being here. We have Nancy Robinson here, Citizens for Gun Safety. And we have a number of neighborhood groups represented here this evening, but I know that Taya Dixon-Mullane, who co-chairs the Lower Highlands neighborhood group, will actually have a few words to say later on. So what I'd like to do is really thank you all for being here. This is a very important update that we'll be getting this evening from Chief Ken LaValle, talking about some of the crime issues in general, as well as various acts, pieces of home rule legislation that we've been working with our state delegation and trying to move that legislation through the State House, an act relative to dangerous weapons and an act increasing the penalties for the illegal possession of firearms. So we'll talk on here a little bit about that this evening as well. So at this point in time, I'd like to turn it over to the chairman of the Public Safety Subcommittee, Councilor Bud Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mayor Milanazzo, and as the mayor indicated, welcome. And we're grateful for your presence here this evening. To my left is my colleague, Councilor Frankie Dakota, who is a member of the Public Safety Subcommittee. Also, Councilor Roddy Elliott, who could not make this meeting tonight because of another scheduled event. But I want to echo the feelings of the mayor. First of all, Senator Donahue, Representative Golden, Representative Nangle, Representative Murphy, thank you for your dedication and your tenacity, representing this city in the State House. And I want to thank District Attorney Jerry Leone for being here as well. Your dedication to your profession is incredible. Chief LaValle, we all know what a great job you do for the Lowell Police Department and the citizens of the city. I also want to recognize Major Edward Amodio, State Police. Did I pronounce that okay? Amadeo, okay. From the Massachusetts State Police. And Madam Secretary of Public Safety, thank you for being here as well. And everyone in the audience, we have members of UTEC here with Greg Croto. Thank you for being here. Taya Dixon-Mullane, the neighborhood group, David Willett, and so forth. We had a meeting early in January about a vicious crime. There were eight people shot, one was killed, and we had a meeting, and the district attorney and the Lowell delegation attended that meeting, and out of that meeting, Senator Donahue has filed a bill, and it's the bill, an act relative to dangerous weapons and an act increasing the penalties for illegal possession of firearms. Probably one of the most important bills to face the legislature in years. And public safety is paramount, not only in Lowell, but every community. And I must say that we have in our midst this evening a great delegation, and a great delegation representing public safety as well. So with that said, did I forget anyone? Oh, Manager Lynch, I'm sorry. You were sitting out over there. Manager Bernie Lynch, from the manager of the City of Lowell, I'm sorry. And if I forget anyone else. If not, we're going to continue. And I'd like to recognize Senator Eileen Donahue, who has filed this bill And Senator?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Councilor Caulfield. And just in light of scheduling, I know my colleague, Representative Kevin Murphy, has other appointments this evening. So I'd ask Councilor Representative Murphy to please go first with your permission.
Oh, right.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Basically, what happened is that there was a house on Dublin Street in the Acre section of Lowell, which I represent, that the owner of the premises was storing a large amount of guns. I don't have the exact amount, but I know Superintendent LaValle would be able to tell you, but they were high-powered and 40 weapons, and they were high-powered or assault weapons that were being stored at Dublin Street. And they weren't really stored in a very safe or secure manner. They were behind a locked door, but obviously something that people could get into very easily. And that's exactly what happened, is that one evening, people who knew about the presence of these firearms on the premises broke into the home and easily absconded with these assault weapons. And these assault weapons, as we know, upon information and belief, have gotten into the hands of gang members. I remember that, and then I found out through my own other practice of law that there was a house in the Highlands section of Lowell, a single-family home, really only about 5 houses from me, where there was a large cache of guns being stored. And I went to Superintendent LaValle and I said, you know, this is crazy. I mean, this is a single-family home in a residential section of Lowell. We've already had one of these terrible instances of stealing these. Can we just find out what's going on in that home? Because just imagine if somebody broke in or stole them, or if somebody broke in and the police responded, and they had high-powered weapons in their hands when the police were responding. Well, unfortunately, and in all due deference to Superintendent LaValle and the Lowell Police Department, they had no rights whatsoever to find out what was going on in this home, how many guns were being stored, how they were being stored, if they were in a safe manner. So with that, I sat down with my colleagues, Tommy Golden, David Nangle, and Senator Eileen Donoghue, and I discussed the situation and said, I really don't think that this is something that the city of Lowell should be tolerating. So the 4 of us decided that we would work together with Superintendent LaValle and Jerry Leone, the district attorney, and come up with legislation that would try and address this situation. So we have drafted legislation at the, I know Jerry Leone, the district attorney, forwarded us legislation. We have amended it a little bit to include notification to the superintendent of police. But the city council, in your wisdom and acting in the interest of public safety, I believe it was last week, you voted to send this home rule petition to the state legislature that would basically say that if you're storing more than 10 firearms in a facility in Lowell, then it's going to have to be in a safe storage, and it's defined as what safe storage is in the legislation. And you're going to have an alarm system if somebody breaks in and tries to steal these weapons. And what I think is very important, you're going to have to notify the superintendent of police in the city of Lowell that those firearms are being stored at that premises. I mean, I think that's very important, that the police should know that if there's a large cache of firearms being stored, that when they respond to an instance at that premises, they know what they're facing. I think it was very, very wise. I think you people did a great job in promoting this home rule petition. I know we're going to have some difficulties. We always do, you know. I mean, the gun advocates have already contacted me, and I know they've contacted my colleagues. But we made it a home rule petition because we didn't want to make it statewide, because we figured if we made it statewide, then we were going to get that ultimate objection by Gun Owners Action League and National Rifle Association. So what we've done is we've asked you to pass the home rule petition and forward it to the legislature so we can try and make this applicable to the city of Lowell to address the issues that we've had in the city of Lowell. And then, if it's successful here in the city of Lowell, hopefully it can go statewide. I've got to congratulate my colleagues here in the delegation because it's a tough issue to take on. You know you're going to be criticized by a large segment of the population just for taking on that issue, but we weren't afraid to take that on, and we congratulate you for having the same courage to take on that segment that are going to just be against it because it's firearms. But I mean, if you have 10 firearms, I think that's enough in your premises, and especially in an inner city. We'd like to move on. David, would you?
No, just along the lines of what Representative Murphy has been saying, we've been talking about this, and one of the things that we are going to run into a little opposition is the goal, the Gun Owners Action League. They've already come into my office as well, but I told them where I stand on the issue and what I intend to do and how we're going to push our colleagues and the leadership in the House. Basically, if we can get this through, I think under Chief Lavelli's leadership that we can do a pilot program type here. I think that he would do a fantastic job trying to enforce this. I think we'd just give him some more tools to help prevent some of these crimes that are happening here in the city and to take some of the guns out of the individuals that are carrying them. We do know that one of the major issues is the illegal firearms, and you know, I hear the stories all the time as well. They're coming up from North Carolina and they're coming from everywhere. So, but as Kevin said, I fully support this, and will do everything I can to convince my colleagues to try to put this home rule petition through the House.
Tommy?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the City Council, Mr. Mayor, for bringing this forward and filing this and voting on it. And like my colleagues, I'll do everything that I can to make sure this gets through the House. Thank you.
I will ask these law enforcement officials to also weigh in on this, but I just want to ask Representative Murphy, a responsible gun owner shouldn't have to worry about this law if they're responsible and doing things legally. Only those who have bad intentions should worry about this law, which is good.
Absolutely, but we always run into it. There's whenever there's any procedures trying to limit gun use, it's limiting the right to bear arms, and there is going to be that opposition. But we'll try and work with those people to address their concerns.
Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I echo the sentiments likewise in the House, that the House is going to push for this. We'll do what we can as well on the Senate side of the legislature to make sure that this happens for the city of Lowell, because it is so important. And as my colleagues have pointed out, you know, there are people who will oppose this on principle because it is viewed as curtailing certain rights to gun ownership, but you know, the rights of everybody to be safe in their homes and in the streets here in the city of Lowell, in our opinion, trumps that, and it's a very specific need that is being addressed by this petition. So we will certainly fight very hard for that. You know, since we were here in January, and as you know, Mr. Chairman, and again, I want to thank you for your leadership in pushing this when the city had sustained not just the terrible shooting on New Year's Eve that you've already spoken about, but the incident on Dublin Street in close proximity in time, where a large cache of weapons was out on the street, and I guess to this day some have still not been recovered, and that poses a big problem for public safety in general. And so in addition to working together with the city and with the folks on the state side, we have been drafting and forwarding legislation and filing bill, and I'll just touch briefly on a bill that was filed by me and Kevin Murphy, and with the help and assistance of District Attorney Leone's office, who has been actually very dedicated and a tremendous resource for us in the legislature and for the city of Lowell, quite frankly. And this particular bill and I won't go through all of the details of it, but I'll just highlight a couple of the provisions of it that I think are important. One is, it would amend the assault weapons ban, and you may be surprised to know that someone caught in possession or control of a firearm would face a mandatory sentence of 18 months, but at the same time, under the present law, someone who has an AK-47, an Uzi, a MAC-10, a Tech-9, and assault weapons of that nature does not face a mandatory minimum sentence. And so this bill would address that and require a mandatory minimum sentence of 2 years at least if someone were convicted of possessing that type of a dangerous weapon. There's also a provision under the law, covert weapons, weapons that are hidden, and again, there's no mandatory minimum sentence, and this bill addresses that and imposes, if someone is convicted of possession of a covert weapon hidden, that would really jeopardize law enforcement, quite frankly, in trying to apprehend somebody. Again, facing at least a minimum mandatory sentence of 2 years. The other surprising part under the law is, under the current law, though, if someone possesses a machine gun or a sawed-off shotgun, though they may face up to life imprisonment, there isn't a mandatory minimum sentence. Now, that just seems to defy logic, but that's the law as it stands today. This bill would impose a mandatory minimum sentence, and that would be a 5-year minimum mandatory sentence if someone was convicted of possessing a machine gun or a sawed-off shotgun, and so on. There are a number of provisions under the law that this would address what appear to be serious deficiencies, not just for law enforcement, but in going forward when places like Lowell and people who are apprehended here facing serious charges, and yet when they go through the court systems, they are not facing the same mandatory minimum sentences for having these very, very dangerous weapons, and this would address that flaw. That's just an update of some of the things that the delegation has been working on since we last met with you and with the City Council, trying to address some of the issues that are outstanding, that are problematic in the legislation as we sit here today. And hopefully, we will be able to push this forward. And again, it's not going to be without a lot of resistance from people who see this as a limitation on their rights. But again, it's a matter of fairness and when all is said and done, public safety. So I want to thank you for giving us an opportunity to come here tonight to update the city and the City Council. And I also want to thank Secretary Heffernan, District Attorney Leone, Major, and I'm going to mispronounce this, but I'm going to give it a try, though. Amodeo. Did I get that right? I won't forget it either. Major Amadeo, and of course, Superintendent LaValle, who started his day this morning bright and early in Boston pushing for legislation that Kevin Murphy has been working very hard on. So this is a group that doesn't rest, and I just want to thank you for giving us a chance to be here tonight to update you on our work in progress.
Senator, on behalf of Mayor Milanazzo, the entire City Council, but most importantly, the citizens of this city, this bill, the importance of this bill is not just for Lowell, it's for the entire state. And I applaud the Lowell delegation for the leadership and bringing this forward. And, you have a meeting in early January and you say, well, let's see what happens. And look what has happened, positive things. And we just can't thank you enough for the leadership and determination to get this bill through, and hopefully the legislature supports it unanimously. Madam Secretary, would you like to comment on these issues? And I'll go right
Absolutely.
down.
Certainly, thank you very much, and I also echo your remarks about the delegation. The senator and the representatives asked me to meet with them several weeks ago and to talk about the problems that were just outlined. And we had I thought, a great talk, and I completely agree with you that their hearts are, and their minds are right where the city of Lowell needs to be. They know exactly what they need to do to keep it safe. So the senator referenced the wonderful work that the district attorney's been doing and that the superintendent's been doing. I know the state police, which is under my jurisdiction, has a lot to say up in Lowell and works in partnership with Superintendent LaValle. So I think that anything that we can do to curb gun violence is important. So I look forward to discussing a little bit more about our proposals as the evening goes on. Thank you. And Nancy Robinson's here. You
Yes,
didn't
I
mention
neglected to recognize
her mother is here, too. Did you know that? I
Yes.
met her mother today, who's a lovely person. She was down in Boston with us earlier, so.
Nancy will be coming to the podium in a short while, and we want to thank you, Nancy, for being here as well. And want to thank the governor, Madam Secretary, for your presence here this evening. It's just, outstanding, and we have so much support. But this support we have here is going to benefit the entire state, not just the city of Lowell.
No, I agree, and I mean, I think the issue of youth violence is an extremely compelling one. Combined with gun violence, it becomes that much more exponential. So the governor has made it a priority of his to combat and do anything that we can do to reduce youth violence. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. Chief LaValle needs no introduction. He's just a fabulous chief, but a wonderful person as well, good family man. And Chief, would you like to offer some comments on this bill and what Representative Murphy has brought forward as well?
I'm really going to miss you when you leave the council. I hope there's a city councilor who'll take your place with those comments. But in any event, we're going to put a presentation on, Bud, if you don't mind. And we're going to talk about what has happened in the city since our meeting on January 8th. I'll tell you that when I sit here tonight and I look at the people who are to my left and my right, I can't help but think that this city engages in partnerships and collaboration probably better than any city in the state. I work with these people on a regular basis, the delegation, the secretary, the district attorney, the state police. It's so important to have these strong partnerships, and I think it pays dividends for the city of Lowell, and I'm very grateful to all of them for working with the Lowell Police Department and working with me to solve some of the issues that we deal with on a regular basis. So I'm very, very grateful, and I'm thankful that they're here this evening. And I think it's important to note that when we have a major incident like we did on New Year's Eve, and there is a lot of distress and people are anxious, it's important to recognize what the long-term results are, not looking at one specific incident, but looking at everything from a bigger perspective. And I think it's important to note that when we look at crime in the city of Lowell, and we compare the crime from 2009 to 2010, I'm very, very gratified to say that there has been a 14% decrease in overall crime in the city of Lowell from 2009 to 2010. And that crime drop is spelled out in the 2010 annual report, which you all received at a city council meeting recently. And in the Group A offenses, the serious crimes, there's been an 11% decrease, and some of those crimes that decreased in 2010 include robbery, simple assault, shoplifting, B&E, theft from a building, larceny, and motor vehicle theft. We did see an increase in aggravated assault by 5% and theft from motor vehicle, but in general, we did see a significant decrease in crime in 2010. And we did see a 25% drop in the Group B offenses, which are those that are less significant than Group A. This is all categorized under the NIBRS reporting system, which I talked about before. It stands for the National Incident-Based Reporting System, which the FBI and the state police and other agencies now require we report our crime on. In 2009, there were 5 incidents of homicide in the city with 6 victims, and there were also 5 incidents with 6 victims in 2010 as well. So we have not seen a major increase in homicide in the city at all. There was a significant decrease, and we know that gang violence has plagued the city. But gang violence has been a very, very high priority of the Lowell Police Department and everybody sitting here with me tonight. And not only the people sitting here, but also the neighborhood groups and the city council and all the people who are present play such an instrumental role with our crime control issues. And we did see a very large decrease in violent crime in the city with gangs last year. We saw a very big increase in property crime, 60%. And the district attorney is going to talk about our youth collaborative as some of the work that we do. And I think it's really definitely showing that all the work that's being done is paying significant dividends. We do know that, the crimes occur on weekends for the most part, and there is the gang crime peaked in May last year, and we know that typically as the warmer weather arrives, we certainly have to be prepared. We talk about firearms. That is a significant problem in the city of Lowell. Last year, our officers took 100 guns off the streets of the city, 100 illegal firearms. Those guns, certainly, every time we take a gun off the street, I think we potentially prevent a homicide from taking place. In 2009, we took 80 guns off the street. In 2008, 72. So you can see the numbers are increasing, and the number of firearm incidents are increasing as well. So we have to be very concerned about that. And we do know that these changes are significant in terms of the incidents that are taking place and the number of guns that are being seized. So that's why the legislation that the senator is proposing is very, very well received. I'm sure that all of law enforcement will be very happy to hear that. What has happened so far this year, the first quarter of the year? I think I can report that things are even better than last year. We have seen overall a 21% decrease in crime in the first quarter of the year compared to last year in 2010. The most notable decreases are in robberies, down 26%. Aggravated assaults have decreased 14%. And property crime has also decreased, B&E by 16%. Theft from a building by 22, larceny by 33, theft from a motor vehicle by 18, and motor vehicle theft down 30%. We have had, this year, 3 homicides, and those 3 homicides took place, as you know, we talk about the incident on New Year's Eve. We talk about the incident at the Transitional Living Center where the gentleman was stabbed in the neck and ultimately died. And then unfortunately, just a few weeks ago, we had an incident where an elderly man beat his wife, and she succumbed to her injuries. That was a domestic violence situation. So those 3 homicides have occurred, and they're a little bit higher than what we had in 2010 at this time. But all, of course, have been solved, and people are in custody and have been charged with these particular crimes. Violent crime basically has pretty much remained stable for the beginning of this year compared to last year, so that is a fairly good outcome. We're hoping to keep things at bay. And a couple of things that we've done to deal with these issues. Well, first of all, let me show you where the hotspots are in the city. And we've already recognized and talked about where the hotspots are in the city of Lowell. And they are certainly in Lower Centerville. They are in the Acre neighborhood, Cork and Dublin Street areas. We're talking about the Moody Street area heading into downtown. We're also talking about the Lower Highlands, Back Central, and the Appleton Street area, and some of the others. So those are the hotspots that we recognize in the city. And by recognizing where these hotspots are and the time frames when these crimes are occurring, we're able to take our offices, and we're increasing foot patrols and other attentions to the neighborhoods and the locations and the time frames when the problems are occurring. As you know, after the incident on New Year's Eve, the city manager transferred $100,000 into the overtime account of the police department. And we have been very frugal with that money, because quite honestly, I will tell you that at the beginning of the year, I would not be truthful if I didn't tell you that the snow and the cold played a role in keeping the crime rate, I believe, at a minimal level. But we kept that money. We held on to it. We didn't start spending that money because we knew as the warmer weather arrived, we would need to start increasing our patrol activities in the hotspot areas. The strategy was to put cops on dots, which is something that we have used in the past. And we certainly have been able to do that with this increased funding. And we're putting extra officers on the street. We're putting extra officers in the areas where the crimes are occurring. And I think that we are continuing to see crime decreases in the city in a lot of these categories, and that's a very positive thing. I think the momentum that we've been able to generate as a result of the cold and the snowy weather, we're continuing now to generate this momentum going forward, utilizing the funds the city manager gave us. Our patrols have increased. Obviously, the community response team is working very hard to deter gang violence. The major is going to talk about the state police collaboration that we have with them. It's been nothing short of spectacular. The state police has always been there for us, and will continue to do so. We have a great collaborative, partnership with the state police. And then, of course, we're implementing our smart policing program, the $300,000 grant we received from the federal government. And we're working very hard through our crime analysis and strategic planning process to make sure that we have, that we're going to put this money to good use. And I also would say that, again, what we do is evidence-based policing. And I'm accompanied tonight by Deputy Superintendent Ryan, Jen Ball from the police department, who are here, who understand and appreciate exactly what needs to be done to deal with these particular issues, and we work in the organization collaboratively to deal with these problems. Last week, just quickly, I did have an opportunity to go to Washington and meet with officials in the Justice Department, the COPS office, and others, and I took away two things from that meeting. Number one, that funding sources are going to be very limited. As you know, the budgetary issues are very much of a concern in Washington, and the federal deficit is a major concern. But that being said, I certainly recognize that Lowell and the Lowell Police Department has a very solid reputation with those funding officials. Those people were so happy to see us, and it means a lot when you meet with them face to face, and they certainly pointed that out to me. And as a matter of fact, two of the major officials that I met with, the head of the COPS office and another gentleman from the Department of Justice, asked me about the movie The Fighter, and they were so intrigued by the film. And it's interesting how that movie has generated interest in this city, and these people had seen the movie and had a lot of questions about it. So that was a good icebreaker, so to speak. But I think that, in general, I'm reporting good news. I think that we have seen crime decrease last year. We're seeing it go down again this year. We are in the process of hiring new officers for the Lowell Police Department. We're going to begin a police academy on June 6th. We have approximately 8 new hires coming on the Lowell Police Department. Lawrence's loss is our gain. One of their officers who was laid off, a spectacular officer with a great track record, is joining the Lowell Police Department. She's multilingual, has a great reputation in Lawrence. We're getting some other officers who are already academy trained that we don't have to send through the academy, and then we have some that we'll be hiring and putting through the academy as well. So that's going to increase our numbers, bring us up to 228 level, which is where we need to be based on the grants that we took from the federal government a couple of years ago. So we want to keep our numbers where they are, and the city manager has actually given approval to the police department to reach out and apply for more grants that could potentially even bring our numbers even higher with federal funding. So I'm very optimistic. I think that we're seeing, hopefully we're going in the right direction. There could be an incident that could curtail some of the progress. We never know. But we certainly are doing the best we can within the Lowell Police Department and within all of our partners here tonight to keep these numbers to a minimum, and I think we're meeting with some success.
Thank you, Chief. And I don't know whether you let the viewing audience at home know, but the Lowell Police Department was one of 6 police departments in the country to receive a grant for $300,000.
Right. Well, there were actually there were 2 solicitations. In the first solicitation, 10 police departments received funding.
Was it 10?
And in the second solicitation, there were 6, and we were one of those 6. So there are 16 total across the country. There are only 2 in New England, Lowell and Boston. The others are from across the country, and we just were meeting with those agencies, and we're continuing to work with them. And that's the Smart Policing Initiative that I just basically alluded to in my presentation. So it's very positive.
Well, that only speaks volumes for the credentials and the confidence the Washington officials have in the Lowell Police Department. And
I think my impression is they think quite highly of us. I really do.
I want to recognize Deputy Superintendent Arthur Ryan, who's sitting on the other side of the rail. And next to him is Jen, who does incredible work, doing all these grants. She's very humble, doesn't want to be recognized, but we want to thank you for your dedication. Okay. The next gentleman, who is the District Attorney of Middlesex County. He's here once a month, every Monday, to meet with the chief and the Lowell police officials on the youth activities and so forth, and we can't thank you enough, District Attorney Leone, for your dedication and your leadership as well. And would you please offer some comments on what has transpired here this evening with this new bill and also the home rule petition about harboring these guns in homes and so forth? So
Sure, Mr. Chairman, thank you. What I'd like to do is just defer my place in the lineup here to Major Amadeo for two reasons, so that we can stay with the policing continuum. But second is Secretary Heffernan, who oversees the state police, is a very dear friend. We were law school classmates, and she said if I didn't defer to the state police, she would reveal my law school grades tonight. So I'm going to defer to Major Amadeo to keep the policing continuum going right now, and then if you could come back to me. Major?
Thank you, District Attorney. And I as well got a nudge in the ribs, so I got the message on that one. I'm up next. I would like to thank you for this gracious invitation to come and speak to you, as well as from the Senator and before the Secretary. And my good friend Ken Lavallee, who we speak at least twice a month about matters of mutual concern with the troop and his department. So I really want to thank you for this opportunity. Historically, the city of Lowell and its police department has been very close to the state police and Troop A. And I've mentioned Troop A a couple times. That is kind of my area of responsibility, and I'd like to just explain to you, so have a little bit of context. Troop A is the northeast region of the Commonwealth. It starts down and around Revere Beach, extends as far...
Excuse me, Major, can you just push that little red button on the mic and bring it right in?
How's that?
That's
better?
Wonderful.
Okay.
I just get a notice from the...
Okay, it starts more or less in the southern portion of the troop around Revere, extends all the way north up to the New Hampshire border, as far west as 495, as far as Route 2. So it's a pretty large chunk of the Commonwealth. It also encompasses 6 individual barracks. Those are our state police stations. And the ones of concern to you, of course, the Andover Barracks and the Concord Barracks. Well, there were 4 others. And it's comprised of about just under 200 officers at this present time. So it's a pretty good chunk. I am thankful to come and speak about some of our collaborations. And these initiatives are mainly designed to maximize the effectiveness of both departments. And there are some very important initiatives. First of all, the most important one is our Sobriety Checkpoint Initiative. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. The second one are our CAT team operations. And when I speak of CAT team, CAT is an acronym for Community Action Team. And each troop has one team assigned that does varying different things. And I'll get into the role of the CAT team in a moment. Also, the Lowell Police Department and the State Police and Troop A had a joint drag racing initiative that was very, very productive in 2010. And I'll talk about that in a moment. The superintendent asked me also to outline some of the collaborations we had with another division within the state police, which is our Division of Investigative Services. The district attorney has a complement of troopers assigned to him that are very active in the city, as is the gang unit. We have a violent fugitive apprehension squad. They're highly active, as well as the auto theft unit. So there is a very strong state police presence within the city of Lowell from our Division of Investigative Services division. But as I like to speak about is our Sobriety Checkpoint collaboration, because I'm very proud of it. When I was the station commander of Andover, I made the initial overtures to Superintendent Davis to get this thing going on Thorndike Street. And the Sobriety Checkpoint program is funded through EOPS. It is an EOPS-funded operation for the state police, so we can't do anything without the Secretary's funding. And in terms of sobriety checkpoints in the Commonwealth, I would like to tell you that the sobriety checkpoint in Lowell is the most successful in the Commonwealth. We do them all over, from Springfield to the Cape, to southeastern Mass, to central Mass. It's by far the most successful in terms of number of arrests that we make. And as you know, in this data-driven policing environment that we live in, numbers are critical to attaining continued funding. And the sobriety checkpoint in Lowell, where it gets the most amount of OUI arrests, we are assured continued funding with the operation. So 85 this year. If you go back last year, we're looking at 62. That's a huge amount of impaired drivers that we're pulling off the streets of the Commonwealth and off the streets of your city. So why is this important to me and to the state police? Well, one of our core missions is crash and fatality reduction. And we know that crash and fatality reduction, one of the causes are impaired drivers. So if we can attack that, and we do it through enforcement primarily, not only OUIs, but enforcement of other types of operation, I believe firmly, and the statistics have shows that we can save lives. And that's what it's all about. So in collaboration with the Lowell Police Department, and it's tough to count lives saved, but I can say before you that is my opinion that we have been successful in that area. Incidentally, the collaboration is outstanding for the officers to work together. They work side by side on the checkpoint. They work together. Not only does it provide a good working environment for them to work together and actually to forge a good partnership and a good relationship among professionals, it also gives us an opportunity to use our Batmobile, and if you're familiar with that. That also is an EOPS funded vehicle that we use and we bring out to these sobriety checkpoints. It's highly visible. It has on it the state police. It has EOPS. We dedicated it in the name of one of our fallen troopers. And what that does is it's more or less what we refer to as a force multiplier. People drive by the checkpoint. Not only are those individuals who are intoxicated have a little interaction, but those people who aren't, they see the vehicle and they tell their friends, and it has an effect of spreading the word that we are out there, and we're out there to protect the people. What I would like to do is just mention I mentioned that we had 85 OUI arrests, and that is very impressive. It's the highest in the Commonwealth. But also other violations are detected during these operations. And during that same time period, we had 9 felony arrests, ranging from drugs to weapons, several misdemeanor arrests, around 20, probably about 40 or 50 criminal summonses, and citations in the neighborhood of over 900. But what's important to me, just as important as the OUI arrests, are the number of people who have gone through that checkpoint, and it's over 5,000 people. 5,000 cars went through the checkpoint on Thorndike Street, saw the police departments interacting in a way that was professional to the common goal of crash fatality reduction and making the road safer for people. That's important. The second initiative that I'd like to talk about is, I mentioned our CAT team initiative. That's Community Action Team. And in Troop A, I make the CAT team available to local chiefs of police for short-term specific law enforcement initiatives. Unfortunately, that's only from September to Memorial Day. After Memorial Day, we have better weather. So as a result, the population of the areas in the former DCR beaches, the Revere Beach, Lynn Beach, they increase the population. So as a result, I need to send my CAT team down to those areas to patrol. So we have less and less interaction up in the cities. And in Troop A, that, like I said, that northeastern geographic region, our main municipalities of support are Lowell, Lawrence, and Lynn. Every weekend we'll support them in some fashion, and I'll mention that in a second, how we do that. The CAT team areas of operation are what they do is designated by the superintendent. Usually it's through his director patrol commander to my CAT team commander, Lieutenant Crowley. In other words, he gives them the goals, what they're going to work on, where they're going to, because the state police, we don't know specifically what's needed in the city of Lowell. We need them to tell us what to do and how, specifically how to do it. And a lot of the data is gathered from the Traffic Division, Lowell Traffic Division, as well as the Criminal Bureau. And when I speak of assistance to municipalities from the state police, Troop A in particular, when I talk to a chief, I tell them the state police will assist you as much as you want or as little as you want. And the superintendent has always been extremely proactive, welcoming the state police in. It is gratifying to me personally to see my CAT team commander and his lieutenant in charge of his director patrol team working hand in hand. In fact, they work together on initiatives sometimes he and I talk about, that we don't know about, okay? But that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And, you know, everyone knows the fiscal situation we're in. If we can work together and get some things accomplished, then you know, we're basically all for it. Operationally, like I said, they work hand in hand. There's communication between the two departments, and they engage in highly visible types of enforcement together. And like the superintendent said, we're all for that. And just to talk a quick moment about some of the things that they have done And this year, there's been 5 such operations on specifically designated days by the superintendent's people, and there's been over 30 arrests in those 5 days, and, ranging from, drugs to motor vehicle violations. And I need to tell you, that's what my people really do the best. They go in there and they can really attack these motor vehicle violations, and they're really aggressive about it, and it's really gratifying to see. There are also probably upwards of 500 civil citations written, so that's a good thing. And if you fold in the CAT team operations along with the sobriety checkpoint operations, you're looking this year, you're looking at probably 11 or 15, depending on how many months you count, different initiatives. And if you combine them all, you're looking at 107 arrests, 24 criminal summonses, and almost 1,000 citations written. Now, I'd like to note, probably triple that, and you'd have the amount of contacts that the troopers and officers have with people, essentially showing the flag, letting them know that we're out there, and that's a positive thing. In closing, I would like to mention about our drag racing initiative. The drag racing initiative, if you noticed, it was in the newspapers last year around springtime. We had them in Lowell, Lawrence, and in Revere. There was a lot of press. We had a helicopter involved, setting up these drag races on interstate highways. Rolling roadblocks would go out of offenders, actually stop traffic. 2 offenders would go in front of the roadblock, and they'd race from one exit to another. Happened on 495, Route 3. Happened everywhere. We attacked it very vigorously. Colonel McGovern came up with a lot of funding for us to deal with it, and we were able to nip it in the bud very, very quickly. But this whole drag racing problem that was kind of occurring in the Northeast as well as Southeastern Massachusetts was detected by Lowell officers who, in partnership with troopers out of the Andover barracks in the midnight shift, found out they had this racing problem. People were gathering, I guess, in one of the parks in Lowell, racing down the connector, up Route 3, and it was our guys together saying, we got this problem. And then from there, the bosses responded in kind and did what we can to support our people. And I'm pleased to say in 2011, it's been so far quiet with racing, but we're prepared to attack it if we see a problem. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Major Amadeo.
You have it. Thank you.
And I just want to let you know, Major, that I had reasons to interact with the state police at Logan Airport at a point in time a month ago. And I'm going to tell you, they were so professional. They bent over backwards, class. And that's what the state police, Massachusetts State Police are, strictly class, and you represent them extremely well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. District Attorney.
Thank you, Mr.
Middlesex County, and you don't need any introduction. You get the microphone.
Thank you, sir. First, I would like to commend the Lowell delegation for the leadership they've shown around the weapons issues. I have to say one of the most disheartening trends since I've been district attorney and as a prosecutor is the willingness to carry weapons, use weapons, especially guns, by young people trying to resolve conflict. And I'd commend the governor for the bill that the governor filed on youth violence, particularly focusing on firearms as well this week. In fact, tomorrow, Representative Nangle, Senator Donahue, and I are briefing the State House on the very initiatives that the senator and the delegation have filed today. So I just want to commend them all for doing that. Approaches to crime. There are 2 approaches. You've just heard about the back end. The back end is enforcement through investigations and prosecution. I work with the state police, Lowell Police Department, to do that. I think we do it very well. But there's the front end approach, was extremely important too, and that's what I want to talk a little bit about tonight. That's prevention, through education, through training. Now, I've been a state, county, and federal prosecutor. Presently, I represent 54 towns and cities, 11 cities, over a quarter of the population of Massachusetts, 20 colleges and universities. I can tell you, Lowell has a committed, dedicated, engaged approach to the front end as well as the back end. And that's what's important. You've got to have both. As I mentioned when we met together after the January incidents of this year, Lowell is an urban area and it's surrounded by other urban areas. In fact, other urban areas, and I've been in Lowell, and I've been in Lawrence, and I've been in Lynn, and I can tell you, the higher crime rates and the dropout rates there are infinitesimally higher than what we have in Lowell. Lowell's got it going on in a lot of good ways. But because you've got an eclectic population, diverse neighborhoods, you're surrounded by other urban areas, the fact of the matter is that creates public safety, law enforcement, and policing challenges. It also creates what we call target-rich environments in law enforcement. This is not unusual for an urban area. Now, the serious, violent local incidents that we had around January 2011, I can tell you this. 1, they were random. 2, they were unconnected. And 3, they were unpredictable. Had they been predictable, had they been connected, had they been anything but random, we would have been extremely concerned. Now, that's not to say we had cause for attention and concern, and we got together around those incidents. However, there was not cause, and there does not remain any cause for particularized alarm about Lowell or how we're going about public safety and law enforcement in this city. It is not, and I can tell you that. And that comes with a perspective that is greater than just this city. What are we doing in Lowell? On the front end, we have several collaborative initiatives that are going on. They are both community-based and they're school-focused. A snapshot, just a half a dozen snapshot, Safety First, UTEC, roundtables ranging from domestic violence to gang initiatives, community-based justice, Middlesex Partnerships for Youth. These are all collaborative initiatives that are going on at the DA's office as we partner with the Lowell Police Department and the Lowell schools, as well as service agencies in this city. One of the most important of these initiatives, and you heard the Superintendent-in-Chief refer to this earlier, is the Lowell Youth Development Collaborative. Being from the federal side, we always use acronyms, LYDC, and that's how we refer to it. And as the Chief mentioned, we meet the first Monday of every month. In fact, April 4th of this year, we celebrated our 50th straight month coming together. That's 50 straight months of a group of people coming together to talk about kids and how to keep kids out of trouble. It started with a Shannon grant, and it started with the evolution of a gang advisory task force way back in 2006. It was first convened in 2006. The city manager assembled a group, a multi-agency group, to come together to talk about kids and how to lessen the risk of gangs. Law enforcement, public safety, health and human services, private industry, business, social service agencies, they all came together. And the greatest part of it is we're still together. 50 straight months later, we're still coming together the first Monday of every month. And that doesn't include the numerous phone calls, conversations, and subset meetings we have in the intervening 29 days before the next month. The mission and focus has expanded way beyond gangs. Because as we talked about over the months, we realized we were really doing a lot to affect the development of kids, which went way beyond just the surrogate for family, friends, and love that kids get involved with, which is gangs. We're involved in a lot of other collaborative initiatives that touch upon kids and our young people, and they're our future. And that's why on April 4th, we came together here in the city. We celebrated our 50th anniversary of coming together. We not only talked about what we've done, which has been extremely successful, but all of the things we're going to do going forward. And just to sum up, to just give you a brief snapshot of one of them, we've created a program where the Middlesex DA's office is going to collaborate with the high school, the charter school, the Greater Voc School, MCC, and UML in mentoring and internship with young people at each of the 2 colleges here based in the city, and the other 3 schools, from the high school to the charter school to the Greater Lowell Voc. And we're going to give kids another opportunity to work with the DA's office and the Lowell Police to see what they can become, that law enforcement and public safety is a friend. And this is the type of good stuff that we're doing every single day in this city. Thank you for hearing from me.
Mr. DA, over 4 years, you've been meeting once a month, and you indicated Middlesex County is 1/4 of the population in the state of Massachusetts, and you find time to be here once a month, and that's just speaks volumes about your dedication, and we're so fortunate to have you as our district attorney, believe me. You're here all the time, and I know when the chief picks up the phone, you're there, and it speaks volumes. And I know my colleague, Councilor Dakota, and Mayor Milanazzo, and the entire council, Rita Mercier, Patrick Murphy, feel the same way. You're just a professional, and you just speak volumes about it, and we want to thank you, believe me.
Thank you. I'm proud to represent the city.
Madam Secretary, do you want to speak on the Shannon grants?
Absolutely, thank you, and I will tell you that the district attorney has nothing to fear with his grades being released. He was a wonderful student and actually dragged me through, so I'm grateful for that. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I'm delighted to be here with these wonderful colleagues that you've heard from. I certainly won't repeat what was said earlier, but I think that a hallmark of what was said is important and is really an important marker for this administration, which is collaboration and multifaceted. The district attorney and others mentioned the work that people endeavor to achieve across secretariats. I'm the Secretary of Public Safety and Security. I have many law enforcement functions within my realm. However, my colleague in the Secretary of Health and Human Services may also see some of the same issues and some of the same families that I see on the corrections end or on the law enforcement end. So that needs to be addressed, as well as the Secretary of Labor and Workforce Development. She has federal funds at her disposal for youth jobs, and hopefully Lowell is a recipient of many of those funds, and I know many other cities in the Commonwealth are. I think it's interesting because and we've struggled with this within our administration, trying to identify the problem of youth violence and what the state's role really is, because as you've heard, there are some very, very cogent opportunities in Lowell. Lowell is a wonderful partner with us. They've done great work both on the law enforcement end and on the prevention end. But what is the state's role as we go across the Commonwealth and address problems in New Bedford or Lawrence or down in Taunton or in Springfield or Pittsfield even? There are challenges that present themselves to the governor. And rather than having the state swoop in and act as though it's, in loco parentis, and you shall do this, you shall do that. It's something that needs to bubble up, and I'm proud to say that Lowell is one of the finest examples of that collaborative, multifaceted approach, and it's in large part due to the tenacity of the Lowell delegation that you mentioned, but also the great work that folks do both on the law enforcement end and on the prevention end. You mentioned Shannon grants. I think that, and the chief mentioned the data-driven society that we're in, and best practices and evidence-based approaches to law enforcement, which are the approaches that the public requires us to do. We want to see results. And also, how do you say to a community, well, gee, crime has gone down X%, but not try to tell that to the mother who lost, her 14-year-old son to gun violence, or to someone whose car was broken into because of a drug-addicted person in their neighborhood. So it's a very personal issue, and it's something that I think people can't relate to unless it is something that they adhere to in their own lives. Shannon is something that we've seen working because it is collaborative. We require the community-based partners to work with law enforcement. We require the partners to have a data component to it. They need to partner up with a university or some sort of educationally driven entity, which will help them formulate what the data means and what's the best practices for using the funds. We've used, and you mentioned UTEC, Greg is in the audience, who's a wonderful partner for us. UTEC and others have received almost $2 million over the last 2 years from Shannon, from a combination of funds. You may know, and the legislative delegation has probably briefed you on 2 ARA pots of money, so federal stimulus money that helped specifically the police department, and one that helped the fire department. We also helped with Shannon grants, and think that those work very, very well because of that collaborative nature. Again, it's the issue that the state doesn't come in and impose on you, this is a cookie cutter approach and you must do this. Let's listen to the community. Let's listen to the folks that are on the ground every day and that know what they need in their own community. So those are those are the real tenets of what the governor is hoping to push in the youth violence initiative that was announced today in Boston. I know he's going across the state to talk about it to many other cities that are similarly situated. I'm proud to say that Lowell is an excellent example of collaboration and cooperation. And I think that we use it as an example gently to other places that may benefit from that regard. I think Shannon is an extremely, very, very successful program, one that has been shown for years to have been successful. And I want to build on that more. So we have the collaborative, preventive piece of it, but also on the other end, we need to have legislative initiatives, as the senator and representatives mentioned, that really hone in on the illegal use of firearms and the illegal use of firearms by our youth. We are filing legislation that will bring into concert with the federal law around felon in possession. And we, although the governor and I have filed legislation about sentencing reform and minimum mandatory sentencing reform, when it comes to guns, there can be no gray line. It has to be a real severe penalty in order to shut off the supply of guns, to make sure that we get the message to people, especially young people that use illegal firearms, that we cannot tolerate this anymore. It's a scourge on the city of Lowell and other cities, and so we hope that with this prevention piece and with this legislative piece that talks about improving the way we can address gangs and gang violence and firearms, hoping that together we can come up with a collaborative approach and hopefully mirror what Lowell has been able to show all of us. So thank you very much for that opportunity. We look forward to continuing to work together, and I could never say no to your delegation,
Yes.
invitation to come to Lowell and talk with you tonight. So I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And I'm sitting here, I know the mayor feels the same, and Councilor Dakota feels the same. We're sitting here, and we're witnessing government in action, the way the people would like to see it. We have public safety officials, legislators, citizens in the audience, and this is what good government's all about, reaching out and correcting things that have gone a little astray. And that early meeting we had in January, I can't believe that we're here, and there's a bill file, and things are going to change for the better. And that's wonderful. That's just wonderful news. So Nancy Robinson, if you come to the podium, please, the Citizens for Gun Safety, and you have a presentation.
Thank you. Yes, I'll be brief. Does this work? Did this sound? Okay. I am so honored to be in this room. DA, I've wanted to meet you and work with you. Madam Secretary, thank you for the honor of being here, and the Lowell delegation, the way you work with the state law enforcement and the city council and community activists like Greg. You are a true model of effective collaboration, and I'm so encouraged to see this in action. I am the Executive Director of Citizens for Safety. I'm just going to make a few brief comments. We are a community coalition working very hard to keep children from getting shot and killed. Let me just state outright, we believe in the Second Amendment. We also believe in keeping guns away from criminals. And you're smart, because we've been given a false choice by Lowell and the gun lobby that we have to choose between supporting Second Amendment rights and protecting our streets and public safety, and it's a false choice. If we can catch Osama bin Laden, certainly we can do more to keep guns out of the hands of the wrong people and still uphold and protect and defend Second Amendment rights of lawful citizens. As Madam Secretary pointed out, I'm honored also to have my mother here up from Philadelphia for Mother's Day, and yesterday we participated in a march with thousands of gun violence victims and their families. And this was a Mother's Walk for Peace yesterday in Boston. And what's important to know is that most of these shootings, if not all, are committed with illegally trafficked guns. I often say that our cities in Massachusetts don't have a gun problem. We have a gun trafficking problem. Citizens for Safety encourages everyone to ask, where did the gun come from? It's a very important question, because the fact is that the shooters may come from places like Lowell or Boston, but typically the guns do not. And the breakdown is something like, I think somebody referenced guns coming up from North Carolina. Well, 60% of our guns come from out of state, but there's a good 36 to 39% that come from right here in Massachusetts. So we have some work we can do to impact reform and change here. And thankfully, we have the governor's leadership on this. And the way that these guns are getting into the hands of our young people is through something called illegal gun trafficking. It's a business, and it exists solely to provide guns to people who can't get guns legally. I'd like to take a minute and just demonstrate, because I know we talk about illegal guns and we talk about this business of gun trafficking called the iron pipeline, and I just want to demonstrate, if I could, for a minute, exactly what we're talking about when we use these terms, and why the governor's legislation and everything you're doing today will make a difference. So I'd need to just ask for 5 volunteers, if I could. Brave volunteers. Greg, 1, 2. Is there, I don't want to conflict with the tape, but can we do this up front so everybody can see? Would that work? Carol, would that work? Thank you. So you can just line up. No, it's easy and painless. You're very brave. Thank you. We have 5. We need 1 more.
You never volunteered in law school. I was asleep.
Good to go.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay. Does that work? Thank you so much. We did a workshop with Greg. He graciously invited us in UTEC for about 100 teens a year ago or 2 years ago, and this was the governor's favorite part. So this is how the iron pipeline works. You've got the gun manufacturer on this end, the gun dealer, the straw purchaser, or the gun runner, or the gun trafficker, the shooter, and the victim. Now, whenever there's a shooting publicized, where does the media tend to focus? Down on that end. Do we ever focus on the rest of the pipeline? Now, suppose we're not talking about guns. Suppose we're talking about tainted cookie dough or hamburger meat or salmonella poisoned peanut butter. How many of you remember that outbreak a few years ago? So if everybody could just flip their signs around. And so you're now the peanut farm, the trucking company, the warehouse, the supermarket. And again, I'm sorry, Madam Secretary, the victim once again. And when the FDA comes in and they want to solve this problem and keep people from eating peanut butter and getting sick, where do they focus? They trace the peanut butter, the product, back to the source, and they cut it off. They cut off the supply right here. Why don't we do that for crime guns in this state, in this country? And I want people just to think about, if we can do the good work at this end of the pipeline, then we have fewer victims, fewer shootings, and safer streets. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Jim.
Just want to say one thing quickly in closing, which is that I've just learned a new fact. It costs more money to treat one gunshot victim in the hospital than to send him to college for a year. So I really applaud the work of everyone in the room, and when we're successful, not if, when we're successful, we're going to be sending more kids to college and fewer to the grave or prison. So thank you.
Thank you, Nancy Robertson, Citizens for Gun Safety, and that was a Broadway production. That was wonderful. And I just want to let you know that the Council Rita Mercier was in the Fighter movie, so she gets union wages for anything like Thank you, Nancy. That was wonderful. And now we'd like to have Taya Dixon-Mullane, who does incredible work in the Lower Highlands neighborhood. She's out there beating the bushes and doing everything humanly possible to help those people in that Highlands neighborhood. And Tanya, you deserve immense applause, and the microphone is yours.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Taya Dixon-Mullane. I am the president of the Lower Highlands Neighborhood Group, and I'm also a board member of the Coalition for a Better Acre. And I'm joined here tonight by another board member, Chia Touch, who sits in back of me, who is a representative representing the Cambodia Mutual Assistance Association on that board. As many of you know, Lowell is a city of neighborhoods, and while all our neighborhoods have very unique character, we all have similar concerns, and one of those is public safety. Efforts across the city to improve infrastructure and parks and private property through the improvement in inspectional services all help in our collective effort to improve our quality of life for the residents and improve economic activity for the businesses. We have an excellent working relationship with the police department, who should be commended for their efforts to keep the streets as safe as they can with the limited resources that they have. However, our public safety remains an issue that we as a city continue to grapple with. Residents remain concerned for the safety of their families and for their property. In January, the city witnessed a horrific crime that claimed the life of one young woman and forever changed the lives of every young person in that room. But it also changed the lives of every family member, friend, and neighbor. Not long after, a woman was hit by a stray bullet in Back Central. A huge gun cache was stolen out of a house in the Acre, and just last week, a pizza delivery man was held up at gunpoint in Lower Centerville. And we have countless car breaks and house breaks that have occurred in the Upper Highlands, Pawtucketville, Belvedere, and across the city over the last year. This is not the city I know Lowell can be. So a coalition of Lowell's neighborhood groups, many of which join me here tonight, in collaboration with the Coalition for a Better Acre, are taking action. Taking action to improve public safety in the way every citizen can participate, because without the community, no effort will be successful. We are pleased to announce the Lights On, Crime Off public safety campaign. This public safety campaign is aimed at empowering our residents and businesses to help make our neighborhoods safer. The campaign is very simple: turn on your lights. Whether it be a porch light, a side light, a motion sensor in an alley of your building, the result is the same. Better lighting will deter potential offenders who benefit from the cover of darkness. Studies have shown that improved street lighting is an effective means of preventing crime, second only to increased police presence, and encourages residents to be outdoors, which itself deters crime by having eyes on the street. For approximately 7 cents a day, one standard 75-watt incandescent light bulb can be kept on overnight. The cost diminishes when you use a compact fluorescent light bulb, which is more energy efficient. This is a small price to pay for our safer community and protecting our family and property. We will be officially launching the Lights On, Crime Off campaign in mid-June to ensure the word reaches residents by the end of the school year, when our young people will be spending more time at home. Outreach will continue throughout the summer months in neighborhood group meetings, community events, and from neighbor to neighbor. The Lights On, Crime Off campaign depends on a partnership with residents, the police, community leaders, elected officials, and municipal officers. And I challenge everyone in this room to participate in this campaign, tell your neighbors, and make this summer a peaceful one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we have many neighborhood leaders in our city who do incredible work, and Taya, you are just a standout, and thank God we have you in the Lower Highlands in your leadership. Is there anyone in the audience, especially neighborhood leaders, who would like to come forward to the podium? Greg Croto from UTEC, offer some comments, what you thought about the meeting, and so forth? Just give us your name and address, please.
Good evening. I want to say thank you very much for all your time and effort. I know you've had a busy day and haven't been sitting around eating bonbons. So we appreciate you coming down here. My name is Anne Marie Page. I've lived in Lowell all 71 years of my life, and I love it. I am the president of the Centerville Neighborhood Action Group, and we have the highest crime rate in the city. We also have the best police department, and Superintendent LaValle has to move our men around and our women around like little pieces of chess because we don't have enough. So I was very happy to hear tonight that we're going to get a few more live breathing bodies, because God knows we need them, because 203 isn't a good number. I was happy to hear Senator Donohue speak, because we knew at one time on the books there was the mandatory 18 months. We didn't know who was going to jail, but we knew the 18 months was on the books. And we just think we need to be a little tougher. We need to be a little stricter. We need a little more enforcement, and no more Mr. Nice Guy. Responsible gun owners are not your problem, right? Your problem are the illegal guns, the trafficking. We know you have a tough job. We appreciate it. We hope that the laws on the books will be put there for a reason, but we want them to be tough. And we want the punishment to be tough. We want you to know that if you're going to carry a gun and you're not supposed to, it's not going to be pleasant. So you'll get the message, don't do it again. Maybe you have to have a no-bail crime. Maybe you have to have the bail a little higher. Let them cool their heels off in jail for a while. I don't know. But your priority is our priority. Safety. So we're hoping you're going to find some money. Help us out. Thank you very much. We appreciate all that you do. We really do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Page. Greg Croto, then David Willett, and anyone else who'd like to come to the podium.
Thank you, Chairman. And I just want to thank the council and the delegation for helping put this together. We talked a lot about collaboration, and we get to meet with a lot of different communities and youth providers, and Lowell absolutely is unique, and fortunately unique for the collaborations we have. The district attorney, it seems like every week I'm asking for a letter of support for a grant, and very easily and very willingly he's able to be there, and he's able to be there once a month. And the chief of police, who we meet with once a month between UTEC and also with part of this group, it's a unique circumstance, and I think Lowell is fortunate to have built up the capacity to really be able to do this work. And so again, we're here to express our appreciation. And from our side of it in UTEC, we know that our mission is really to serve those young people that are what we call like the proven high-risk young people, whether they be out of school, gang involved, court involved. That's who our street workers are chartered to really reach out to. And so we know that no matter how strong the programs are inside UTEC, if we're not really reaching out to the right young people, we're always going to be kind of falling behind. So our street workers are out there day in and day out, and that's our commitment, is to continue doing that, reaching out to the shot callers, the gang leaders, the young people that are in different situations. And so inside of UTEC, we'll continue doing that. Unfortunately, we're down to 2 or 3 street workers on the street right now. So it's always limited, but because we have the partnerships, we're in just a stronger position to be able to do that type of work. And we've had success, and I think the great thing about it is we know it works. I think we have a model of being able to really make impact, and so now it's just moving forward on that. So thank you again.
Thank you, Greg. And on behalf of the citizens of the city and the youngsters that you work with, thank you for the work you do, because it's invaluable, absolutely invaluable. David Willett from the Acre Youth Organization.
Hi, everybody. Just want to say, all of you, thank you very much for coming out of everybody's busy schedule. We're already starting that campaign for this summer, Lights On, Crime Off. I have some pamphlets that we're even going to be handing out. And also this summer, we're in the Acre, we're doing a project over at the North Common Amphitheater to keep the kids entertained and busy this summer, with terrific collaboration with the City of Lowell, the CBA, also with NeighborWorks America and CTI's Youth Build. We're all coming together. It's going to be a beautiful amphitheater for everybody's use. June 4th will be the day that our opening day over there. We'll have all kinds of entertainment. That'll be the Acre cleanup. And the City of Lowell, Tom Belgard, is bringing us over some stencils for even the ground over there, which we're going to paint like hopscotch and everything else, so even the kids, when there's nothing going on, will be able to use it. That day, we have all different music from all different ethnic groups, the gospel singers, everybody, because we want to let everybody know that amphitheater is everybody's amphitheater, and come and use it, and just to help keep the teenagers and people entertained and give them something to do this summer. And so look forward to Lights On, Crime Off. There'll be yellow balloons everywhere coming up. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Are there any more neighborhood leaders who'd like to come to the podium? If not, I know I have 2 colleagues sitting in the audience. If they'd like to come to the podium and offer any comments, feel welcome to do so. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually really didn't intend to speak. but you've been given accolades out to everyone, and I think we all should give you one, because you have been a credit to the city for, 22 years, and we're very sad to see that someday, very soon, you'll be leaving, and that it would be a shame. As the chief had said, yes, you have put together a great meeting, and I thank everybody for being here, our State House delegation, members of the state, Jerry Leone and Mary Beth, thank you very much for being here with our, it takes a village, and when Hillary Clinton did say that, it takes cooperation from everyone. I'm fortunate enough to be involved with the Sheriff's Department. We have a great warrant apprehension unit whereby we collaborate our resources with the Middlesex County Sheriff's Department along with our chief. And I'm just so thrilled that, we can have crime and different problems and sweep it under the rug and pretend that, it's okay, we'll do all right, but we address it and we work together as a team. It's a team. It's not about one entity, but everybody coming together and make this a great city. There will always be crime. There will always be poverty. There will always be an ebb and flow of the ocean. So we try to do the best that we can. I remember one time when we started having a graffiti problem. If we would have let that go, it would have overran us. Same thing with crime and gun violence and violent crime. But we're working on it each step at a time. We're probably not going to solve it or erase it, but we're going to do everything we can to combat it and get a leg up on top of it. So to each of you that took time out of your valuable, busy schedule to come down here, we're very, very grateful. We know that you're on our side. We'll all work together to make this a great city, what it is. Lowell is just a word. It's not about Lowell. It's about the people in it. And when the chips are down and we're struggling, those leaders that we have sitting at the table there know how to get everybody together. So to our State House Senator Donahue, thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
Is there anyone else who'd like to come to the podium? Before we adjourn, I would like to also recognize Lyle Moran from the Lowell Sun, who is covering this, and Robert Mills also from the Lowell Sun. Thank you for being here. And Mayor Mills, I'm sorry.
Councilor Caulfield, I was remiss. Speaking of the team, I just want to recognize Congresswoman Nikki Tsongas, who is in Afghanistan. Otherwise, she would be here with us this evening. I know, she's very interested in this issue, and she just wanted me to make sure I let you know. Otherwise, she'd be here, but is part of the team effort in whatever goes forward.
Before we adjourn, and I would have to say, in my 24 years sitting in this council, this is probably the most productive, meaningful meeting I've attended. And I'll tell you why. When we had the Irish flag raising ceremony, I walked up Merrimack Street with Senator Donahue. And we had a meeting in January, and you say, well, what's going to happen? And Senator Donahue said, I have filed a bill, and this bill is going to help stop the violence. And I was just taken back because it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. But it's because of the leadership of the Lowell delegation. You're just incredible. David, your colleagues in the House, Senator on the Senate side, and the governor. I don't know how to thank the governor for his input, and the state police, the district attorney, and Chief LaValle. This is a very, very important meeting, not just for Lowell, but the state as well. So I want to thank you for your attendance, and Mayor Milanazzo and Councilor Dakota, if you'd like to have a closing statement, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say thank you to you all for being here this evening. When I spoke a little while ago, I talked about the collaboration and the partnership, and it was obviously very evident in your remarks this evening. Lowell continues to be a wonderful example for other cities and towns in the Commonwealth to emulate. I want to thank the state delegation for putting the legislation forward, for continuing to be a partner with the city and with our federal delegation in order to really continue to make Lowell be a model for success. So we're dealing with public safety this evening, and obviously we're going to continue to make strides under the leadership of Chief LaValle and Jerry Leone and the state police. And Madam Secretary, thank you very much for being here as well. And the neighborhood groups, it's key that we work with people like Nancy Robinson and Taya Dixon Mullane and others who really are on the ground seeing it every day. And it's just so important that we continue to listen and try to work hard and be proactive. And I think meetings like this, legislation that has been filed, will continue to bring us forward. So again, I want to thank you for all being here tonight as well. Thank you.
Thank you, and I would like to echo Mr. Mayor and Councilor Caulfield's remarks. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate the hard work that you do, your ability to work together. It's really critical for us that you work together. And to the neighborhood leaders, certainly all of us at the room were here and dealing with the issues, but you live there and you understand it, and your commitment to your neighborhood is going to have the most long-term impact, I believe, than even what we can do here, up here and at the front. So thank you very much. I appreciate you guys being here.
With that said, a motion to adjourn, seconded by Councilor Dakota. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.